Hi everybody, it's Cynthia Kane, and welcome back to the second part of this week's module for UL100ZB. This time we're going to be focusing upon citation, and this specific video is going to relate to learning assessment number 5, if you choose to do this one. So I'm going to pause here for just a second and switch over to our Canvas course, because what I'd like for you to do before you go any further with this video tutorial is read 2 articles that we've linked on our Canvas course. And those 2 articles are right under here under the citation video tutorial: Manual Labor by Barbara Pfister and Citation Fixation by Michael Stevens. And I've opened up both these tabs for you. I'd like for you to read these 2 at some point before you go any farther in this video tutorial. And the reason is that both of them have very interesting things to say about why your professors are so adamant that you use a specific citation style, whether that would be APA for the American Psychological Association, or MLA for the Modern Language Association, or perhaps another one that's more related to your discipline or your major. Because when you think about it, why are we so focused on getting everything right? The period's in one place, something needs to be capitalized, or it doesn't need to be capitalized. Think about what the whole point of citation is in the first place. So please read both of these articles, and I think they will really help you in terms of just thinking about this a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And with this one, Citation Fixation, you can read this directly online as a PDF, or you can download it if you like. But again, I kind of like this statement here. Are we sometimes too concerned about process and what we think students are doing wrong that we miss what we are doing right? To put a fine point on it, are we too hung up on proper citation formatting? This is going to relate to a discussion that you can do for part of this module. So again, please be sure to read both of those articles. And I'm going to be really curious to see what you think about this in terms of how important proper form is when it comes to citation styles. And this goes back to the reactions. We spend a lot of time as librarians teaching citation styles. I answer a lot of questions when it comes to APA in particular. And do we have arcane rules? Do they get in the way of the real purpose of citing sources? And again, what are we missing when the focus lands on correct citation style and not the content that students are creating? I do think it's something to think about. So what we're going to be doing in this one is actually comparing some differences and hopefully making it a little bit more clear to you on why we do have different citation styles in different disciplines, how that changed over the years. So some of you may need to use APA, American Psychological Association, if you're majoring in education or in psychology or in related disciplines. Basically with APA, their focus is very much upon currency of information. So with an APA citation, we tend to focus on putting the year in the in-text citation, and we also put the year in parentheses as part of the first element of the citation or the reference. So that's why you'll see years such as 1996 or 2008 in parentheses. They really want you to focus on when that was actually published. The other thing that's kind of interesting about APA that you may notice, we'll be looking at some of these examples in just a second, is that authors in APA style are never referred to by having their full names spelled out as far as the first names are concerned. So if I am writing an article, and if somebody did a citation for an article that I wrote in APA, it wouldn't be Kane Cynthia. It would be Kane C or Kane CM for my middle name. Part of that is that with APA, they do not want any potential bias in terms of gender to pop up. So if we're just using the initials of the first names, we really don't know the gender of that particular individual. So there are some reasons in terms of disciplines why APA works the way that it does and why you do have to do that correctly. Now MLA is a little bit different. I was an English major before I went into library and information science, and so I used MLA style extensively when I was an undergraduate student and a graduate student both. MLA is actually for modern languages for literatures. If you take composition here at Emporia State University, you'd be using MLA as well for your citation style. So MLA is a little bit different because it was actually designed to cite literary works like novels, short stories, plays, and so forth. So as a result, with MLA, you do have to spell out the author's first name because that's important to document, a little bit different from APA. The date or the year of publication is also important in MLA, but the currency of information with the humanities or in history, that's going to be less important. And that kind of makes sense if you think about that. If I'm writing a research paper about a novel or a short story, I need to gather all of this critical information, like literary criticisms, books that have been written about the novel, articles that have been written about the novel, and it may not really matter when those were published, really different from APA. So that is a huge difference. There is a difference in philosophy between MLA and APA, and that philosophy actually affects the way that you write the citation. Hopefully that will, kind of illuminate some differences a little bit more to you on why we do what we do. So let's look at this citation. This is the same citation for the same article, but the difference is that one is an APA, one is something called the Chicago Manual of Style, which is often used in history, and the third is an MLA. See some of the differences. So on the first one with APA, I have the S, I'm not spelling out the author's first name, and immediately that date is in parentheses. With MLA and also with Chicago Manual of Style, I've spelled out the author's full first name. And with MLA, notice that I'm not actually getting to the date 2017 until later on in the citation. There's another key difference too. Look at the use or the non-use of double quotation marks. We don't use double quotation marks around the author of the article title with APA. We do capitalize in APA the title or the first word in the title of the article, but then the rest of those words are actually not capitalized. They're in lowercase. Big difference between that and Chicago and MLA. So again, pay attention to that very carefully because the stylistic differences are very important. Meg and I are going to be looking for correct citations from here on out when you're doing your learning assessments. So we want to make sure that you understand, first of all, you choose a specific style and you stay with it. And then you are consistent on the way you're doing the citations in that style. So it's really important to know how those actually work. Now, we've showed you, and you know by this point, that many library databases have a cite or a citation tools feature, and that can help you generate a citation about that article from a database. However, it may not be 100% correct. This is a really good example. So this one that I have on this slide is one that I generated directly from a database called Academic Search Complete, and it is full of errors. For example, look at the names of the authors. Those are all in uppercase, and the reason is that they were entered that way in the database. I'm going to have to go through and correct those because those wouldn't be in uppercase for an MLA citation. Notice that the title of the journal, New Internationalist, that's not italicized. So if we go back here, we usually put in italics the major title of a journal or the title of a book, anything that's a major title. And it didn't come across this way here. So there are a lot of different things I'm going to have to really correct on this one. So never take this type of citation that's generated from a cite or a citation tools and use it point blank. Always look, because you're probably going to have to make some corrections, whether it's an APA citation or an MLA citation. However, there are a lot of different ways that you can get help. So with APA style, we have APA Academic Writer, and I showed you that very, very briefly in an earlier tutorial. That's on the databases link at the library's webpage. So if you're doing APA style, you could go to APA Academic Writer and sign up for a free account, And that can help you actually find how to do a reference in the correct format. We also have APA frequently asked questions, and we also have something called the APA style blog and APA style help from Excelsior College. I'm going to pop over here and show you some of these. So this is the APA style help from Excelsior Online Writing Lab. And what I really like about this is that I can go over here to APA references. And if I need a quick refresher of how to do a correct APA reference for an online journal article, that shows me exactly the way that it should look. And this is very important. If you're doing a citation for a full text of a journal article and it's from an academic research database, a library database, you don't actually put the database name or the URL if you're doing APA style. You just do the author, the year in parentheses, the title of the article, the title of the journal, which is italicized. This is the volume, which is also italicized, and the issue, and then the page number. So it's pretty straightforward. Excelsior also offers a similar help screen for MLA style, and we've given you the links for that as well. Please check these links very, very carefully, again, going forward as you start doing learning assessments, because we are going to be looking much more specifically at correct citations. Again, with MLA, if I needed a refresher on how to cite an article from a library database, this one is a little bit different because this is going to show me how I have to do this with MLA format. And in this case, I actually do include the URL. I don't do that with APA. So really key differences here. Make sure that you're consistent no matter which citation style that you're using. And if we go up here to APA style blog, I really like this one because the great thing about this is that I can actually type in a question such as how to do an APA style citation for Facebook or for a Twitter post, and it will tell me on the APA style blog exactly how I should do that. And finally, the MLA Style Center. This is a great resource too on templates to create a citation in MLA style. The other thing I like about this is if we go down here, we have some different teaching resources. You can ask them if you have any questions. We can go to learning everything I need to know about APA style. Here's a quick guide to works cited, a quick guide to doing in-text citations, and sample papers. So if I needed a refresher on how to write a paper in MLA style, I can go to this from the MLA Style Center. And I can also scroll down to the end for my works cited. And that's a good refresher of how this should look and how those citations should be set up. I'm going to go back here to our slide. So we have links here for APA style. These are the ones that we were looking at. And then we looked at Excelsior and we looked at the MLA Style Center. Please, please refer to these if you have any questions at all, or reach out to me or reach out to Megan if you're struggling on how to do a citation, and we're happy to help you, again, with these learning assessments coming up. So now you're ready to move on to our second tutorial for building a Wix website. This is going to help you construct a page for learning assessment for your infographic. And then we have our video tutorial for our engagement activities and for our learning assessments 4 and 5.